one of your main missions is like transforming mindsets, right? A scarred mindset.
Yeah, well, what I basically do is I change the orientation of faith people to realize that they're living in a kind of like a smaller world than they're supposed to be living in. So years ago, I got this revelation on 7 mountains of culture. And those 7 mountains are literally like this senator was dying and actually died for like 28 minutes, Michael Krotz in Georgia. And when he was gone out of his body, he had a vision. And the vision, he told me, he said, these 7 mountains were part of the vision. And the vision was that Jesus was going to send him back and he was to run it for an office in politics. And he did. And he came out and then he met me later. He said, I became a senator and I got into politics. He said, but you're like the first person that's ever talked about what I saw up there. When Jesus showed me, I had to come back into my body. I saw these spheres, these spheres of influence, and believers were rising up in them. And the Lord told me in the last days, believers were going to rise up and stand in their sphere. You're doing it here with a podcast.
Yeah.
He said, what's interesting was they weren't preachers. They were ordinary people with professions who had fused their faith into their work, and somehow their work became a kingdom expression. And where they were in a shaking world, things weren't shaking. And so he said there was a stability and an authority that was in them. So that got me to thinking, what is the difference between a believer who is like a Christian expecting to go to heaven, just kind of going through earth like a pilgrim, like Peter said, or somebody who is actually engaging the world around them so as to become an influence within that world? So that's kind of what got me started with the 7 mountain mission.
So you had an out-of-body experience?
No, he did. The senator did.
Oh.
So I interviewed him, and he gave me the data on it and his own experience. And ever since then, I've been talking about how believers need to rise up in different fields. So what happens is I run into Christians that then feel like they're called to go into business or to make money or to become do movies or to go into politics. But a voice comes to them and says, yeah, that isn't really God because that's all about you. And they kind of like feel like if they're really going to be holy, they should be a missionary, they should be a preacher, they should be, a musician. And that's the mindset that I'm up against.
Right.
Hey there, you just listened to an excerpt. That's a little bit of the podcast. So if you want to get the whole thing, because there's a lot more content there, go to lancewallnau.com/podcast. And instead of getting an excerpt, you get the entire message.